The movie opened in a secluded Taoist temple where Anxia had been raised and trained since he was abandoned as baby. One day, his master asked him to fight every other monk in the temple to decide who would leave, as they could no longer feed everyone. Anxia defeated all his fellow monks with ease, but to his surprise, winning equaled leaving. This meant he was finally strong enough not to need training anymore. Furthermore, his master believed it was time for Anxia to experience the real world. When Anxia finally made it to the city, he was overwhelmed by it and quickly got into trouble because he did not know how to cross the street. Using his martial arts skills, he dodged cars and ended up showing off a little, which earned him the admiration of the crowd. One person even tossed a coin at him, but this wasn't enough to buy food, and by the time night fell, Anxia was starving. When he saw Dr. Tsui leave a restaurant with a food package, Anxia decided to steal it from him, causing Tsui to chase him through town on his bicycle. Eventually, they arrived at the river, and while Anxia jumped out of the way just in time, Tsui fell into the water. Anxia did not hesitate to save him, and as thanks, Tsui let him have the food. Finding Anxia amusing and a pure soul, the doctor decided to take him back to his pharmacy to make him his apprentice. The doctor lived with his wife, Mrs. Tsui, who paid little attention to her husband and preferred to spend time with her brother-in-law Daorong. At least she did not complain about Anxia's presence and enjoyed it when Anxia entertained the couple with his antics during meals. Dr. Tsui sold medicine in his pharmacy but also saw patients, and Anxia learned how to help him with both. His martial arts skills came in handy when it came to distracting people in pain, especially crying children. At the end of each day, Dr. Tsui paid Anxia for his help, but half of his earnings went into buying love tonic from his brother Daorong, whose business was not doing well. One afternoon, Tsui learned that Daorong had sold the shop for the value of a precious ring, which made Tsui furious because both their shops had been a family inheritance. Daorong didn't care though, and he reminded Tsui that he had given up monkhood for a woman, so he couldn't exactly talk. Dr. Tsui left the shop in a huff, and Anxia went after him to ask for an explanation. It turned out Dr. Tsui used to be a monk at a temple just like Anxia, but one day he saw an incredibly beautiful woman praying and decided to follow her to make her notice him. Eventually, that woman became Mrs. Tsui, and the monk left everything to become a doctor and work hard to provide for her. The only reason why Tsui would regularly buy the love tonic was to help his brother with his debt. But obviously, Daorong didn't care about hard work. Later in the evening, Anxia heard a weird noise and climbed a ladder to look into Tsui's room, only to discover the couple was being intimate in bed. When they were done, the doctor shared with his wife how worried he was about his brother's future, but he refused to give him a single coin again. He also promised Mrs. Tsui she would never have to worry about money because he had a bunch of savings hidden in the wall behind the wardrobe. The next day, Anxia went to get more love tonic for Tsui, but when he arrived at the shop, he heard noises that indicated Mrs. Tsui was cheating on the doctor with his brother. He didn't tell the doctor about it, but he did confront Mrs. Tsui later, yet she only told him to stay out of her business. Sometime later, Daorong cried to Mrs. Tsui about his debts and how he was thinking about ending things, which convinced Mrs. Tsui to help. Daorong also gave her a stronger kind of love tonic for the doctor. When she returned home, Mrs. Tsui tried to steal the savings from the wall, but the doctor caught her red-handed. Thinking Anxia had told him everything already, Mrs. Tsui explained the Daorong situation, but also swore it was over now and she wouldn't see him again. Sometime later in the middle of the night, Anxia heard screaming. It was Mrs. Tsui, who found the doctor had died on her while they tried to be intimate. While saying goodbye to his master, Anxia remembered the doctor had promised him he'd never be hungry and accepted the responsibility of taking over the shop. This allowed him to find the empty tonic box that made him suspicious. With the doctor gone, Daorong had no shame and came to pick up Mrs. Tsui in person. They both ignored Anxia when he reminded them they should respect the traditional 7 days of grieving. Daorong and Mrs. Tsui went out on a boat ride, during which Mrs. Tsui also found it strange that Daorong wasn't sad. She realized then that Daorong had put poison in the tonic, and this triggered an argument that shook the boat and caused it to spring a leak. Escape was impossible because they were locked inside, and when they were about to drown, Anxia showed up to save them. However, Anxia was still angry about what they did to the doctor, and just a moment of hesitation was enough for him to miss the boat. Overwhelmed with guilt, Anxia ran to a temple to pray for his sins and was found by Abbot Rusong, who made Anxia kneel for Buddha so he could be punished for killing. Following Buddhist tradition, Anxia spent 7 days on his knees repenting until he passed out, still unsure if what he did was right or wrong. When Anxia returned to the shop, he met Zhao, who managed to get inside even though there was a lock on the door. Zhao was a martial arts student who could use a special technique capable of destroying things through walls, and he had come to the shop to buy some medicine for his master, who he would be fighting later. Anxia was very impressed by this mighty technique, and after doing the sale, he followed Zhao in secret to watch him fight his master, Peng. Both men were very skilled, and Zhao managed to stay calm even when Peng taunted him. But in the end, Peng beat up his student anyway. Zhao refused to give up and used the special technique to land the final hit with props he found in the area. But this also forced him to admit he had been practicing his master's technique behind his back. Peng didn't mind and admitted Zhao was more skilled than his own son, so he would be the one to inherit the leadership of his school. A happy Zhao started making his way out, but he suddenly fell to the floor because Peng had waited for the right moment to betray him and kill him with his umbrella to get revenge for his stolen technique and keep his son as his heir. The next day, Peng's son, Treatise, showed up at Anxia's shop to get some medicine for his father. He also had some meat that he'd love to cook properly, and Anxia accepted to share his kitchen in exchange for sharing the lunch. When the stew was ready, Treatise only let Anxia eat after he shared all the details about the fight. Things got weird when they realized the meat had a special poison that made them hallucinate and their faces swell, and after Anxia saw the ghost of Mrs. Tsui, he decided they should get drunk to forget. Since they didn't have money, Anxia and Treatise went to a temple to steal the donation box. Xiu was the monk protecting the box and quickly gave them a lesson by beating them in a battle that ended with their heads against the ground. Treatise ran away in fear, but Anxia stayed to apologize and asked Xiu to be his master, but Xiu turned him down. The following morning, Treatise told Peng about what happened, and Peng immediately realized that must have been the same Xiu he trained with when they were younger and stole a technique from him. Their conversation was interrupted when Anxia brought over the medicine order, and after Treatise quickly kicked him out, he explained to his father it was Anxia who had told him about the temple. Peng now thought Anxia and Xiu were working together. Meanwhile, Anxia packed his things and said goodbye to the doctor at his altar before returning to the temple to beg Xiu to train him again. Anxia began showing he could be useful by sweeping the area, but Xiu took the broom from him and showed him his special cleaning technique before giving it back, explaining even cleaning must be an exercise in focus. Sometime later, a girl approached Anxia, saying her fortune predicted she would meet her savior in the temple. Her biggest wish was to have a baby, and Anxia promised to help her find a way. In the evening, Anxia went to see Rusong for advice, and they both closed their eyes to meet in their headspace. Rusong told Anxia about a secret room in the temple where men took women to get them pregnant, and he had locked it some time ago to protect it. Anxia wasn't sure why Rusong found this amusing, but when he opened his eyes, he found the key to the room. Afterward, Anxia took the girl to the room and finally realized there was a space for them to be intimate. They had a wonderful night together, but the girl wouldn't tell him her name because they couldn't see each other again. Later, after sharing this experience with Xiu, Anxia asked him for his story in return. Xiu explained that when his old master died, he passed his ape strike technique to him and made him the heir of the school because his son, Peng, wasn't good enough. Peng was furious and fought Xiu until he ran away from the school, and nowadays, Xiu was waiting for the right moment to return something to its rightful owner. Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by Peng, who had come to ask for the secret manual with his father's techniques. Xiu explained there had never been such a manual, but he had written all he knew in a notebook that he could finally give to Peng to make up for their disagreement. Peng grabbed the manual and tossed it into the kitchen fire, prompting Anxia to run to recover it. But Peng quickly jumped in to hit him away. Xiu didn't want things to turn violent and apologized to Peng for running away all those years ago, now understanding he should have stayed so they could learn together. He also wanted to bow in respect, but Peng was still resentful and started a fight. Their kung fu techniques destroyed many parts of the temple, and Xiu had to push Anxia out of the way multiple times to stop Peng from attacking him too. Seeing Xiu move so fast to take his student outside made Peng drop the fight and leave the temple. But as soon as the doors closed, he revealed he was just pretending and used his special technique to attack through the wall. A statue exploded and the little pieces went after Xiu, who grabbed his broom and used his powers to create a tornado of leaves that acted as a shield. Peng thought he had won and came back inside to check, prompting Xiu to jump on him and restart the fight. When Peng was about to use his special technique again, Xiu noticed the full moon was out and used its energy to control the water from a fountain and push his enemy back. Peng's attack wasn't completely cancelled though. Instead, it made the stream break in two and hit both men at the same time. Peng used the chance to escape, but he passed out as soon as he made it home. Cheesy rushed to look for medicine in the drawers and found a gun next to it. The memory of the weapon wouldn't leave his mind while he took care of his father. Meanwhile, Anxia finally convinced Xiu to teach him his techniques, although for now, they started with the theory behind the forces of nature. As thanks, Anxia revealed he did rescue the notebook from the fire and returned it to Xiu. Later, when Anxia was in bed, he heard a couple of gunshots echoing in the temple and ran outside only to discover Xiu had been shot. A dying Xiu wished to see someone named Cha one last time and give him the notebook, but Anxia didn't know who that was and took Xiu to see Rusong instead. The monk taught Xiu that this was the result of karma, and now that Xiu finally understood how the cycle had closed, his soul left in peace after seeing his friend Cha in his heart. Meanwhile, Peng woke up to discover it was his son, Cheesy, that had shot Xiu. A few days later, Anxia went to the city because he had learned Cha had become a performer at the local theater. After the show was over, Anxia told Cha what happened. But even when Cha visited the temple and saw the blood-stained clothes, he refused to believe it, especially since Xiu never took students before. Anxia shared more details to prove his story, and in return, Cha explained he had met Xiu before they joined the Kung Fu school. The two of them had been in the army together, and back then, Cha had been just a performer going through withdrawal. When his first battle began, he ran away in fear, but Xiu came after him and helped him keep his sanity during the war. Cha wanted revenge for the death of his friend, and Anxia told him it probably was Peng who killed him. Cha still had another show to finish, but he showed up on the stage just to cancel it. This angered Police Commissioner Lyron, who had paid extra for good seats for his girlfriend, and now he sent his men to get revenge for this humiliation. It was incredibly easy for Cha to beat up a bunch of cops, and when Lyron tried to shoot him, Cha moved fast enough to dodge the bullet and beat him as well. The next day, Lyron got in contact with Peng in order to get revenge together. Lyron pretended to arrest Peng and called Cha to inform him Xiu's killer had been caught, so Cha was free to come by tomorrow when they transferred him to prison. Cha accepted, and Peng and Lyron got his men ready for a trap. In the evening, Cha and Anxia did a special ritual to bless Cha's spear with Xiu's bloodstained shirt. Cha explained that after the two of them trained for years in nature, Xiu announced it was time to leave their cave and for Cha to return to the stage because life had to be a balance between nature and enjoyment, and Cha intended to keep on living by those words. The following day, Lyron and Cheesy stayed in the car with Peng while their men proceeded with the ambush, but it was easy for Cha and Anxia to work together and beat them all up in seconds. Then Cha approached the car and asked Peng for a one-on-one duel, which began with the two men fighting each other in their mind space. Their skills were pretty close, but Peng cheated and made one of his men attack Cha while his eyes were closed, wounding his arm. This wasn't enough to stop Cha, who jumped extremely high to use the light of the sun for a special attack with his spear that heavily wounded Peng and cornered him against a tree. Cha asked if he really killed Xiu, and Peng said he did to protect his son. Suddenly, Cheesy showed up with the gun and confessed it was him, causing Anxia to hit him a few times and take the weapon from him, thinking about shooting. Cheesy pointed out that Xiu had seen him yet never said his name, which proved he wanted to end this cycle of revenge. These words inspired Peng to grab Cha's spear and end things, offering his life in exchange for his son's so that the new generation could start over without hate in their pasts. At that moment, Lyron shot Cha in the leg before driving away, prompting Anxia and Cheesy to go after him. Anxia failed to stop the car with his jumps, but when Lyron made a bad turn, he found Cha with his spear, which he used to send the car into the water and make it explode. Afterward, Anxia returned with Xiu's body to the mountains, where he finished his training thanks to finally having experienced both good and evil in his life. So, what did you think of the movie? Leave it in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.